How many years in prison would every villain from Scooby-Doo and Guess Who get for their crimes? In the series premiere, Revenge of the Swamp Monster, this caddy uses the swamp monster costume to turn into a landlord. And good enough for me, lock him up. Oh, we kinda do need something to get him on though. Well, good thing he kidnaps his golf buddy and 2 other golfers, taking them somewhere in his underground tunnels. The gang come down to Florida to help Chris Paul out, where the monster first scares off the commentator before turning his sights on the gang, chasing 2 more golfers away with Shaggy and CP3, and eventually attacking Scooby in the tent. The gang find the stash of scuba tanks that he uses, and are soon chased into the art school, where he gets a bit frustrated during lecture hour. 7 more golfers and their caddies quit the tournament, leaving just the ones we accounted for the kidnappings of earlier, breaking their 9-iron, and stealing this golf cart to chase Shaggy and CP3, ramming into the back of them to send the cart flying at the rest of the gang, concluding with one final attack on Chris Paul before capture via squirrels. Sure, why not? We're starting off pretty hot, and I'm sending them straight to the caddy shack for 3 life sentences plus 500 years. Hey wait, we never saw those kidnapped golfers that were taken underground again. Are they okay? Oh. In A Mystery Solving Gang Divided, Jeb uses the ghost stories of Gettysburg to scare his way to finding the lost gold that the soldiers were supposed to receive. He scares off a family of 4, taking a swipe at the family with his ghostly sword, before using these cannons to really drive them off. As the Mystery Gang and Funky Phantom crew search for clues, he uses the cannons and underground dynamite to nearly take both parties out. And once he takes the gold, he leads a chase throughout the battlefield, sending this cannon wildly spinning towards the mystery machine, but is soon caught after his own ghostly run-in, and will receive 357.5 years in Pennsylvania State Prison. In Peebles' Pet Shop of Terrible Terrors, Mr. Peebles controls this fish monster suit that's maybe a size too big for him, so he could stir up some trouble and cause Miguel Gorilla to become someone else's problem. As the monster, he attacks Wanda Sykes with the hottest in-stock items of the pet store, before the gang arrive to join her in getting chased around a few times. He hops on this turtle, and uses this forklift without certifications, leading to Wanda's capture and sticking to the wall. Peebles' business associate also meets the same fate, but Miguel Gorilla swings in and saves the day, sending Peebles to the penitentiary for 33 years. In Elementary, my dear Shaggy, this Tower of London guard and underground worker team up to dig around London and steal the crown jewels, using this floating skull creation as their disguise. They chase the gang touring around London, knocking into the van to make them crash, before bringing in Sherlock Holmes for a few chases as well. Once they do break in and make out with the jewels, it's revealed after their capture that all the jewels are fake, but I'm still gonna count it. 33.5 years in Scotland Yard for the pair. In Ollie Ollie Income Free, a jewel thief poses as an antique dealer, so he can access the British Museum and steal the Ruby of the Nile. Ricky Gervais unknowingly purchases the statue it was hidden in, so the dealer dresses up as a cat mummy to try and retrieve it, breaking into Gervais's flat and chasing the gang around, yoinking Scooby out of his hiding spot. At the museum, he attacks an old lady and keeps her tied up in the sarcophagus that the gang finds, chasing them around again and breaking a few items along the way. Eventually, he does get the statue, but Ricky and his army make sure to catnip this one in the bud, and the thief will join our previous ones in Scotland Yard for 2 life sentences plus 52.5 years. In The Scooby of 1,000 Faces, the museum curator uses this Minotaur costume to try and steal the golden head of Apollo. Wonder Woman lassos him up to stop him, but the truth is, he punches her along with Daphne and Velma before taking off with the vase. They tail him to the ruins of Delphi, where he breaks off a piece of stalagmite to cause a cave-in, before attacking Shaggy at the dig site for the statue, getting into one last fight with Wonder Woman before his capture, resulting in a 194-year sentence in Greek prison. In The Cursed Cabinet of Professor Mads Markson, Teller wants to really surprise Penn with a fantastic trick, using the Savannah Hotel's demolition to pull it all off. He scares off a demolition expert before anyone arrives for the Night of Terror, starting it off right with the chase of the gang and his partner Penn. On stage, he pulls the old switcheroo to turn into the Devil Rabbit, picking up the first row of seats to throw at the gang, Penn, and this woman Tess, who's introduced pretty much as a red herring. He picks up Fred and throws him at the explosive control pad, and everyone just barely escapes the blast with Fred's catapult. I'm not really sure if he does own this place or not, so I'm still gonna get him for property damage and arson. It's a good trick. A great trick even. but he's still getting 172.5 years in Las Vegas prison. In When Urkelbots Go Bad, the janitor of the museum finds that the submarine exhibit is made entirely of gold, so she uses the robots to smelt it down and replaces the parts with replicas. While most of the work is automated, she does use the Technomancer costume to chase the gang and Urkel away a few times. But she's still headed straight for a Chicago prison for 137 years. In The Fastest Food Fiend, Bill Talley tries to ruin the family business after his brother inherits it, using the Spectral Speedster costume to ruin the competition. Not only does he scare the mascot off, but he uses his hot rod to nearly run over 16 people and flip at least 10 cars, causing them all to go up in flames. The gang find the mascot actor tied up in the broken freezer, while the speedster chases Jim Gaffigan down and forces him off the road, just barely being saved by the gang. They take him back to the diner to get some milkshakes. Maybe a little too much milk, and a little too much shaking too. In the final stretch, the Spectral Speedster crashes the rest of the racers out of the race, and crashes into the restaurant to scare the gang from setting up the trap, using the deep fryer as a bomb to rain fries from the sky. Adding everything to Tally's tally results in 2 life sentences plus 239 years in a California state prison. In Attack of the Weird Allosaurus, the two Petes use animatronic dinosaur disguises to illegally dig for fossils in the cave of Weird Al's camp, scaring off 11 of his campers, the gang, and Al himself. Scooby gets swung around via accordion, and Al nearly turns into dinosaur food before getting run over in his hiding spot. While the gang try and get some rest, the dinosaur interrupts Scooby's accordion lesson, chasing everyone out of the cabin, nearly chomping Daphne and Al, before somehow teleporting into the mystery machine and ripping the bumper off. Causing a cave-in on Shaggy, Scooby, and Weird Al gets a few more charges, plus trying to chomp them up as well, before both Petes get into a final duel over the egg. Accordion to my accounts, they'll both be getting 72 years in prison, and their only visitor can be Weird Al and his accordions. Oof, unlucky. And now you see ya, now you don't. Sia's personal chef goes on a shopping spree, just without actually paying for anything. She uses a Dark Sia alternate look to try and frame her, also planting the stolen goods at Sia's house. She attacks one of the jewelers and heads back to Sia's, attacking Shaggy and Scooby that night before heading out. And she's on a roll, hitting up another store that the gang are investigating, pulling the fire alarm to help her get away. Back at Sia's, she chases the gang into the elevator and cuts all the cables, sending them for a free fall before adding Sia herself into the chase, finishing off by attacking Shaggy and Scooby to try and get the case back. These cheap thrills had her feeling unstoppable, but this immortal queen is headed straight to prison for 4 life sentences and 73.5 years. In Quick Clownin', AJ Dobbs dresses up like Patso the Clown to try and get the TV station shut down, having never lived down being the Pie Kid from the original. He breaks into the station during the newscast to scare away the crew, and attacks Shaggy and Scooby, who are just minding their own business, flinging them off their getaway tightrope. As Kenan Thompson rehearses for the telethon, Shaggy and he get attacked once more, but it's actually Velma who gets clowned on the most, getting shoved into the soundproof booth. When the gang go to save her, Patso tries to grab Fred before starting the final chase, but basically gets bullied with his past traumas, and is sent to the Clown Correctional Institute for the next 91 years. In What a Night for a Dark Night, Joker poses as both Alfred and Langstrom underneath the Man-Bat costume, kidnapping Alfred from Wayne Manor to hack into Bruce Wayne's bank account, using a torture method banned by the Geneva Convention, tennis ball machine. He also breaks into the local mall the gang are investigating, attacking Shaggy, Velma, and Scooby, breaking Velma's phone as she calls Batman to come save them. Velma gets kidnapped and kept with Albert, leaving the rest of the gang and Batman to fight this foe, which they kinda fail at. Batman gets his ass whooped. Shaggy and Scooby nearly get eaten and fall to their doom. But at least Batman finally does capture Man-Bat. Joker's heading right back to Arkham Asylum for the next 363 years. In The Nightmare Ghost of Psychic You, the lunch lady dons the Nightmare Ghost disguise to try and shut down the school so she'd finally get her inheritance. She pops out a Whoopi Goldberg seance before the gang get to the Poconos. But once they do, she chases them all around the school after missing Shaggy and Scooby with her attack. She's got control over all the doors in this place, but even when she doesn't, she can just break them down as she needs. Daphne, Fred, and Velma get locked in the snowblower room, nearly getting turned into popsicles. Respect for a resourceful queen turning the banister into a set of skis, but it's still going on the list. Along with the final chase of everyone and grand theft of the Zamboni, leaving her with 236 years in Pennsylvania prison. but it might get reduced if she wants to work in the mess hall there. In The Sword, the Fox, and the Scooby-Doo, Coach Roach dresses up as the Fox Monster to try and steal the legendary samurai sword, breaking through the floor of the class reunion, rudely interrupting Mark Hamill's speech. Coach kidnaps the drama teacher who found out about a scheme, keeping him tied up with the statues, before chasing the gang and Mark through the school, breaking the scaffolding to trap them under the rubble, before grabbing the sword and taking a swing at Shaggy and Scooby, losing the final duel to the not-so-young Skywalker. He'll be headed to a Japanese prison for 5 life sentences and 141 years. In 1 Minute Mysteries, the Trickster uses the Joker's costume, and also the giant teddy bear one, to kidnap Daphne, Fred, and Velma, forcing the Flash to come and save them. He keeps them tied up at the old toy factory, where these adorable and deadly teddy bears are rigged to blow. Shaggy and Scooby try and buy him some time, but once the charges go, it's flashing time. Just barely saving everyone, and taking the Trickster up to Iron Heights, to spend 8 life sentences and 151 years. Don't worry, it'll be over in a flash. In Hollywood Nights, the gardener of Darrington Estate tries to swoop in to inherit the mansion from the rightful heir, by dressing up as Duke Doombringer to scare her off, which he does to George Takei, the gang, and 11 other people. He nearly grabs George, Shaggy, and Scooby, before breaking through and chasing them all again, taking a swipe at Velma, who's only saved by George and his swordsmanship. But even though his blade chips and shatters, the knight just bulldozes straight through them all to steal the document, and also the mystery machine, leading to a wild chase throughout the hills before crashing. Maybe he should take this as a sign to stick to gardening. After his 79-year sentence, of course. In the New York Underground, the Poetry Slam promoter dresses up as this gator monster to steal the key to New York City and find the treasure of J. Jacob Ascot, stealing his old diaries to help find the way. The promoter crashes his event with the gang, Halsey, and by my count, 183 attendees, throwing Scooby off the sewer cover before doing the same to Halsey, Fred, and the girls. He takes a few swipes at Daphne, Fred, and Velma, causing the collapse of the underground, before almost tackling Velma to try and retrieve the book. One final chase of everyone leaves him with 1,025 years in New York State Prison, to work on his poetry some more. In Fear of the Fire Beast, Nana dresses up as the monster of Mount Etna, to terrorize the Sicilian town of Menfi. I think these 5 people might be more scared of Steve Buscemi, but I'll still attribute it to her. Plus attacking Steve with her flamethrower, burning up all of his pictures. She chases Steve right towards the mystery gang, adding them to the chase as well. While they're all in the warehouse searching for clues, she burns the place down with everyone inside, and it's revealed that she also owns this place, so probably insurance fraud. One more fire attack leaves another building ablaze, and a helpless chipmunk nearly well done. And Nana only did it so people would stop thinking her nephew Steve was an evil guy. Aw, how sweet. Alright, take her away. 7 life sentences and 36 years in Italian prison. In Too Many Dummies, Baz Bosington is the master of puppets, pulling the strings on this dummy's rampage of the charity show, assaulting one of the guards left in charge. Shaggy and Scooby are really the only other ones to get tormented by the little guy, as he throws burgers at Scooby and chases them around, before just showing up in their motel room to get them up and out of bed. Even when they're being attacked on stage, the audience can't help but laugh at their pain. Perhaps a commentary on us as a society. Oh, sorry, the Joker episode was a while ago. Also, somehow Baz got behind the wheel of the mystery machine and no one really batted an eye. 26 years in prison for dummies. In Dance Matron of Mayhem, Mrs. Zabrinsky tries to test if Maddie Ziegler is the true heir to her dance studio, scaring her and 2 movers out with this floating piano. I'm pretty sure Maddie already purchased the place, so Mrs. Z definitely can't do that. Even if that's contentious, I absolutely know she can't shock Maddie twice, Shaggy once, and Scooby 3 times without getting some jail time. So I'm thinking a nice 83 years in Pennsylvania prison for this 103-year-old woman. Good luck. In The Wedding Witch of Wainsley Hall, the food truck chef disguised as the Wedding Witch, to steal and recreate the recipes left by Chef Beauregard. She immediately greets the gang by trying to kill them with this falling statue, before chasing them and guest Jeff Foxworthy around the plantation. She uses a special recipe sweet potato pie to put the boys to sleep, and chases them around once they wake up, before getting caught up in Fred's trap for her. Maybe some of her fellow inmates will have some jail recipes for her to practice, and we'll give her 4 life sentences and 29.5 years to do so. In A Run Cycle Through Time, the Chrono Beast breaks into Malcolm McDowell's secret lab where the gang are touring, attacking them all and forcing them onto the time machine. While going from millennium to millennium, The monster knocks Malcolm into the void, attacks Shaggy and Scooby, and caps it all off by turning Malcolm to dust in front of the gang's very eyes. But underneath the suit was Malcolm himself, and none of this time travel nonsense was actually real. Velma had such a fun time with this that she just unties him and gets his time travel attraction up and running. So if it's good enough with her, it's good enough with me. No time served. In I Put a Hex on You, Xander dresses up as the ghost of Esther Moonkiller to try and ruin the Hex Girl's image as the greatest rock stars on Earth, sending them a special guitar that has a frequency to turn the player into a feral beast, as seen here with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And, again, I'm giving her the charges since it's basically mind control, plus a few chases of the gang, Luna and Thorn, leave this stage-frightened queen with 60 years in Ohio prison. In the High School Wolfman's musical lament, Christian Slater was too afraid to dance with his crush, so he dressed up as this wolfman to crash prom, and then crashed the makeup prom for good measure. Yeah, completely justified reaction. He also peels back the Mystery Machine's roof to attack the gang, chasing them around the school before trying to tackle Shaggy and Scooby. Oh, and he also kidnapped Simone and kept her tied up in this body cast? Is this guy okay? This is like Ezra Miller levels of insane. 178 years in prison. In Space Station Scooby, Pierre Jacques and Jacques Pierre squeeze into this tardigrade suit to try and steal the secret formula from the space station, breaking a bunch of lab equipment to get Neil deGrasse Tyson out of their way. Bill Nye brings the gang aboard the ship, but only gets Shaggy chased around the ship, and gets attacked with Velma, losing his keys in the process. The pair of villains barely get saved from burning up, but they'll definitely be hot once they realize they have 17 years in prison waiting for them back on Earth. In The Phantom, the Talking Dog, and the Hot Sauce, the producer of Casey Musgrave's play tries to get it shut down so he can collect the insurance policy money, driving away 3 of her actors and breaking some equipment along the way. No matter, we've got replacements and then some, as the mystery gang steps in and also gets chased around. Shaggy and Casey give him a guitar solo, Fred nearly gets attacked, and Scooby tries not to get lit up. The only thing this guy should be producing is license plates in the Tennessee State Prison for the next 68 years. Do they even do that anymore? In The Last Inmate, Janine and her brother Jeremy team up to find the lost gold of Cheaper State Prison, dressing up as the ghost of Jean LeBeau to try and scare off Morgan Freeman and some meddling kids. Jeremy throws a block of cement at the Mystery Machine, causing it to crash, before chasing everyone around inside the prison, and finishing it off by grabbing Scooby by this faux collar. This old prison isn't active anymore, so I think we'll have to send the pair over to Shawshank State Prison for the next 97 years. In the horrible haunted hospital of Dr. Phineas Fragg, Big Bob McAllister uses the legend of Dr. Phineas Fragg to scare everyone out of the hospital so he can drill for the oil underneath. He starts with attacking this nurse, keeping him in the supply closet, before the gang and special guest Kristen Schaal join in on the fun, getting attacked and chased around the hospital. The monster latches onto the Mystery Machine, and chases everyone down to the basement, closing off any route out of here. But this series is a well-oiled Mystery Machine, so of course he's captured and sent to the local prison for 55 years. In The Hot Dog Dog, Big Eddie Eats uses the legend of Chicago's Old Gnarled One to shut down the hot dog eating competition before Joey Chestnut can win his belt back. He breaks through the factory floor to attack 75 people during his first attempt, plus 18 more in the makeup competition, grabbing Joey, Mr. Haggerty, and the gang. Scooby's putting the dog in hot dogs here. Wait, actually don't do that. Scooby's the bait, getting grabbed by the monster before Eddie is captured and taken away to Illinois State Prison, where he's unlikely to have anything resembling food. So basically, still just hot dogs. 126 years of mystery meat. No, that's not a euphemism. In A Movable Mystery, Jay Koshblanc uses a gargoyle disguise as a diversion method to swap paintings from the Louvre with forged copies that he made. He ruins his own show for Gigi Hadid, attacking her and 6 other workers before returning to his bell tower the gang have camped out at. He does chase them through the French subway systems, taking a Vespa in the process. Before scaring off 19 attendees of the runway show, he'll be taken away to a French prison, and stay there for the next 83 years. In The Feast of Dr. Frankenfooter, Alton Brown brings the gang to his creepy old mansion to try and reinvent his image with the help of his Frankenfooter creation. He chases the gang around, nearly getting both Shaggy and Scooby, but I guess nothing really bad happened, so maybe we can let it slide. Okay, don't worry about her. Or him. Or them. Quick, let's go eat before we find any more kidnapped people. In A Fashion Nightmare, Marla dresses up as the ghostly elevator operator to scare people away from finding floor 13, where legendary designer Miko Monreal's sketchbook of ideas is. She begins with this snooty rich lady, before chasing Shaggy, Scooby, and special guest Tim Gunn around. They give her a quick makeover, but she's not exactly making it work. More worried about trying to get the sketchbook back from Shaggy. Maybe we'll send her to jail with a sketchbook of her own. She'll have 17 years to learn how to make her own looks anyways. In Scooby on Ice, Johann Steiber dresses up as the Snow Devil, or Schneeteufel, to shut down the ice games, and also steal and sell the water from underneath the frozen layer of the lake. He causes the gang to go careening off the road, before chasing them and Tara Lipinski around the resort. He's an ex-hockey player, so he's definitely being over-aggressive with everyone, trying to check Daphne and Shaggy, grabbing Tara's leg, and swiping at everyone in the boat before they escape. While trying to get his blades back, he grabs Scooby, gives Shaggy the people's elbow, and sends Tara flying before his capture by Fred, who finally did something in this episode. Johann will be kept in an Austrian Alp prison for the next 168 years. In Caveman on the Halfpipe, the ski instructor uses the frozen caveman costume to try and frighten people off the mountain, so he can make off with a briefcase full of old bearer bonds. He really hit the clubs hard in this episode, getting a total of 17 assault with deadly weapon charges, plus all of his attacks on Scooby, reckless endangerment of the gang and Chloe Kim, and stealing a snowmobile to chase them all down with. So he's looking at a pretty hefty 133 years in prison. In the crown jewel of boxing, the caterer steals a robot from the military base to help him search for King Louis's lost treasure. He's narrowed down the search to Layla Ali's new gym and museum, so he heads over there after punching the mystery machine into a light pole, breaking through the ceiling and scaring out 64 people in attendance. The gang get the place cleaned back up just in time for it to get trashed again, narrowly missing the robot's attack before being chased into the elevator, which the robot does break the cables to. Scooby tries to stand his ground, but gets smacked around, and a full-on cave-in traps everyone down there. Layla rock'em sock'ems this robot, while Velma finds the caterer's hiding spot, delivering him to the authorities to deal with. It's looking like a 123-year sentence in Kentucky jail for him. In the internet on Haunted House Hill, the caretaker of the mansion tries to scare off everyone, so he can steal the valuable materials the place is built with before it's sold off. He starts by scaring off this old man selling vacuums, but he kinda just waltzed in like he owned the joint, so maybe I'll drop that one. Chasing the gang and Liza Koshy around isn't acceptable though, especially when he uses ghostly jazz instruments to attack Daphne, Fred, and Velma. At least he'll have 26 years to sing some really powerful blues tunes. In the 7th inning scare, Macklemore dresses up as the Jaguars' old mascot in order to create a mystery for the gang to solve, because he just really loves their work. So much so that he destroys the baseball field to chase the gang around, and attacks Daphne, Fred, and Velma. The baseball memorabilia shop and stadium both explode, plus his own house, which he gets on the phone with insurance about. It seems harsh to put all the blame on him. I mean, he hasn't done anything too heinous. Except for the robbery of 2013. Life in prison. In the dreaded remake of Jekyll and Hyde, Tabitha uses Mr. Hyde's monster mask to scare away studio workers, so she can find the lost vault of Mammoth Studios, where millions of dollars of old film reels are kept. She uses some explosives to try and divert the gang from the set, but when that doesn't work, just resorts to dropping studio lights on the gang and Sandy Duncan, using the animatronics to attack Fred, Shaggy, and Velma, and hopping in the studio cart to chase everyone down, picking up a hitchhiking Great Dane along the way. She also kidnaps Bill Billington, and keeps him tied up with a nondescript number of workers. So we'll go with 4 others. So adding on those final few charges, we'll get her all the way up to 5 life sentences and 87 years in California State Prison. In Total Jeopardy, the cameraman hacks into Max Kilobyte to try and win Jeopardy versus Shaggy and Velma, but when the humans start flexing those brain muscles a little too much, throws a tantrum a few times, wrecking the set and throwing objects around, before chasing the gang and Alex Trebek around backstage. When Shaggy wins the episode, Max starts wildly shooting lasers around everywhere, endangering everyone in attendance. But, the cameraman only hacked into Max to answer questions. Everything else was all Max, so that's not good. 10 years for hacking, and I think we should decommission Max, like, immediately. In the dark diner of Route 66, the waitress, cook, and janitor use these mud monster disguises to try and steal all of the gold out of the lost city, but there's way too much in here to haul out by hand, so they attack the gang and steal the mystery machine. Now with the diner, the gang split up, with Axl Rose taking Shaggy and Scooby, while Daphne, Fred, and Velma all get kidnapped and held captive in the underground caves. The monsters chase Axel and the boys around before taking off down Route 66, but crash out a little too hard and get taken away to prison, where they'll be for the next 82 years. In Lost Souls of the Jungle River, this sneaker salesperson heads over to Brazil in search of this lost sneaker factory, which happens to be where Jason Sudeikis and the Mystery Gang are headed to. The sneakerhead chases them all around the boat, adding on one of the locals to the rampage, before breaking in and attacking Jason. Setting the whole boat ablaze and kicking the adventurers out onto the river certainly isn't a great look. But then again, neither are the rare sneakers. That final attack on Scooby seems a bit unnecessary, but hey, if the shoe fits, I guess. 185 years in prison for the sneakerhead. In the Tao of Scoob, the maintenance man tries to steal this rare emerald back from Lucy Liu, after he ditched it before serving 20 years in prison. He breaks into her art gallery, and out of it as well, to chase the gang around, adding Lucy to the chase through the streets, winding up in this place for a New York slice, while also trying to slice Shaggy. He eventually gets it back from Scooby, but loses the final duel versus Lucy and her paintbrush power. He already served 20 before, so what's another 187 years for the gangster? In Returning of the Keyring, the garden department lady uses this plant monster disguise to scare away people from the store, so she can plan out her bank heist. With the ferocious Flora, she attacks a customer, the owner, the gang, and Daphne's friend Sean Astin. Astin gets the gang together to create a fellowship of sorts to return the ring of keys. Sean, Shaggy, and Scooby get grabbed by the creature a few times, but weed whackers and bailers help clean her act up, leaving her with 51 years in prison. In Cher, Scooby, and the Sargasso Sea, Cher's yacht captains, disguised as the old Sharkmen, to grab the sunken treasure from the Sargasso Sea. They attack Cher's chef before chasing everyone around, crashing the boat full speed into the wreckage. One of them is waiting for Fred to enter the mystery machine, and breaks down the door to try and find the hiding gang. The gang already escaped with scuba gear, but they chase them anyways, before just taking off with the yacht. Cher gets back to the ship and back at her crew, leaving them with nothing more than 62 years in prison. Actually, we never see the chef again. The last we see is the hat floating in the ocean. So, a life sentence, plus 62 years. In The Lost Mines of Kilimanjaro, Joyce Dranders and her gorilla usher the gang towards the caves of King Solomon, so Joyce can find the treasure and make a fortune. Her gorilla has an even larger gorilla suit, picking up the mystery machine and throwing it around, chasing the gang, and flinging them all off the rope bridge, leading to Shaggy, Scooby, and this leopard cub being thrown into the ravine below. Joyce has dirt on her hands too, slashing the mystery machine's tires, stealing from the tomb, and locking the gang and Jessica Biel in there. I'm sending the gorilla to the newly expanded nature preserve, while Joyce is getting 58 years in a Tanzanian prison. In The Legend of the Gold Microphone, the librarian uses her connections, both underground and wired, to break into Reverend Run's new youth center in search of the gold microphone, doing so dressed as Bones McCann. She locks the doors on the two electricians, who only escape through the second-story window, before breaking in and chasing the Mystery Gang and Rev Run. She just barely misses tackling Run and Velma, and attacks Scooby, Run, and Shaggy before her capture. It's not the worst sentence for a whack MC, but she's still getting 209 years in a New York prison. In Scooby-Doo and the Skytown Cool School, Kathy Cavendish III stages the heist of the resort across from Billy D. Williams' Cool School, using a drone she stole from Spain to help her. She starts by attacking the gang, sending them careening off the road, trying to finish them off after they save themselves. While Billy D gives them a hot air balloon ride, she flies through and destroys the balloon, sending them free-falling. She breaks back into the school to chase them all around, picking up Shaggy and Scooby in the elevator, before completing her heist of the money. Too bad for her that she runs straight into the gang, and goes tromping at Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby before her capture. She'll be sent to a Swiss prison for 9 life sentences plus 120 years, with 2 years in Spain for that theft. In Falling Star Man, the Man in Black turns out to be the very thing he's sent by the government to tell you doesn't exist. An alien. He knows one of the buildings on Terry Bradshaw's farm is full of cash, so he crash lands next to the gang and chases Terry and them around. Terry's ranch hand Jimmy gets attacked out in the barn, before the alien breaks into the main house, tackling Terry during another chase. In today's NFL, that's roughing the quarterback. So that's just under 51 years in a Louisiana state prison. In A Haunt of a Thousand Voices, Frank Welker, Matthew Lillard, Kate McCucci, and Greg Delisle do everything they can to sabotage the recording session, because each of them wanted to play one of the other's role for once. There's a lot of chasing, kidnapping, attacks, and some breaking and entering, but everyone comes together in the end and gets the job done. So no time served for anyone. I mean, who else is gonna voice the gang? In Scooby-Doo, Dog Wonder, Mr. Smallbottoms dresses up as Medusa to steal and sell expensive vases on the black market, which is a way to avoid paying taxes on them. He breaks into Radley Crown's penthouse, scaring 11 party guests, before knocking Blue Falcon out with his vase, kidnapping him and keeping him locked in the cement factory. The gang are on the vase case, getting attacked at the factory before cementing Smallbottom's fate in prison for the next 48 years. In Movieland Monsters, Carol Burnett's staff create a virus and put it in the VR experience she created, chasing and attacking the gang through various movies. Stolen plots, stolen cars, stolen Dorothys and Totos, fireballs and bad pilots, all so they can keep working with Miss Burnett. Everything was in the VR world, but even if it wasn't, we'd probably have given them a pass. So no time served. Also, if I had a nickel for every Scooby-Doo show that ended with a VR episode where nothing much of note happens, I'd have 2 nickels. Which doesn't seem like much, but it's weird that it happened twice. And that wraps up this edition of the Legal Analysis series, with yet another bunch of criminals put behind bars. As always, a big thank you to all my lovely members over on the Patreon and the channel members over here. If you want to get your name on here with them, head on over there by clicking the link below, or use the card above. Of course, you never have to, but I do appreciate those who do help me out. And that's the final legal analysis for these Scooby-Doo shows. It's been a long journey, but I'm glad that it's over. No. Oh god, no. Please, anything but that. No. Oh, and bye.